Hey everyone, thanks for watching. This is Yuri Rashkin, and you're watching my Rashkin Report Substack or Rashkin Report Perspectives channel on YouTube. Welcome. Did you know that Europe just blinked? The European Central Bank refused to backstop 140 billion euro reparation loan for Ukraine, a loan secured by frozen Russian assets held at Euroclear. On paper, the ECB says the mechanism would likely violate EU treaty law prohibiting monetary financing. But everyone in Brussels understands that this is not just a legal interpretation. It is a political reaction to the world as it exists today. Russia is aggressive, and the US administration is unpredictable. European governments are now operating in an environment where Washington's position on sanctions, frozen assets, and Ukraine's security is, to put it mildly, unclear, and that uncertainty shapes every calculation. Belgium, which oversees Euroclear, is especially alarmed. As the Financial Times reports, Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever called the EU plan fundamentally wrong unless all 26 EU member states provide legally binding, unconditional, irrevocable guarantees that say they will share the risk, something for Ukraine to learn. Why such intensity? Because if sanctions on Russia are softened, altered, or canceled, Euroclear would be required to return Russian assets immediately, even if the money had already been loaned to Ukraine. The FT quotes officials saying Euroclear would not be able to repay the money immediately. This is the core fear. Europe may suddenly be forced to compensate Moscow at a moment when legal, political, or diplomatic pressure shifts, including pressure from Washington. This is not theoretical. This is the operating reality Brussels faces. The FT describes concerns across the EU about the current American approach to peace negotiations and to the use of Russian assets. European leaders see U.S. envoys, including business figures and political allies, engaged in direct communication with Russian officials about potential settlement frameworks. These discussions do not always align with European interests or with Kiev's positions. This creates a strategic dilemma for Europe. How do you commit to a 140 billion euro financial mechanism when the global political environment could change overnight? If sanctions are modified, if asset freezes are altered, if Washington announces a deal, Europe could be exposed instantly. This is why the ECB's legal explanation is only the surface. Underneath, it is a recognition that Europe does not control the long term stability of the sanctions regime and cannot rely on external political actors to maintain it. For Ukraine, this is a serious moment. Not because the money was already transferred, it wasn't, but because Europe has signaled a limit. The FT notes as the refusal comes as Kiev faces a cash crunch amid a renewed Russian military onslaught. That timing matters. It suggests that Europe will support Ukraine, but not at unlimited financial risk and not with mechanisms that depend on the decisions of governments beyond Europe's control. Russia will interpret this as a psychological success. Not a breakthrough, but a crack. A sign that Western unity is not automatic, not guaranteed, and not built to absorb unpredictable geopolitical shifts. Moscow thrives on such cracks. But Ukraine is not powerless. Ukraine has shown again and again that it can shape global perception through action. Every strike on the Shadow Fleet, every disruption of Russian oil exports, every attack on logistics hubs, these operations remind the world why Ukrainian victory is strategically essential. Ukraine must create momentum where others hesitate. Europe is cautious. Russia is pressuring. Global politics are unstable. But initiative, real initiative, still belongs to Ukraine. Today's ECB decision reflects Europe's fear of financial exposure in a volatile international environment, but it does not change the fundamental lesson of this war. When Ukraine demonstrates capability, the world recalibrates. Ukraine cannot afford hesitation. Others can blink. Ukraine cannot. You're listening and watching Rashkin Report. My name is Yuri Rashkin. Thanks for watching.